What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his course. Got my squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigos.
Let's do this. Hey, welcome to the greatest Tuesday of your life. Once again, this is the best Tuesday in the world. You are tuned into the number one faith-based sports talk show in the entire world. Today, I'm your man, P. Skip. T-Mac is not with us, but I do have none other than the WW, Chili Willie Wade.
Gracias, amigos.
So check this out. Romans 12:1-2 in the Amplified says this. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies dedicating all of yourselves set apart as a living sacrifice, holy and well-pleasing to God, which is your reasonable, rational, logical, and intelligent act of worship. Verse 2 says, and do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing in on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourselves what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you. Now, I read that because I wanted to talk about today just how powerful transformation is. Now, verse 1 talks about dedicating your bodies and giving up your bodies as a living sacrifice. And again, this is a faith-based sports talk show. And as an athlete, you are always having to give up your body.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. You have to. It's part of the game. I mean, even conditioning your body to compete is a giving up of your body. Right.
And I believe the owners feel like how God says that's the least you could do is, give me your body, play hurt.
Yes.
Mentally, emotionally, I don't care how you are, go out there and give me your best. But then he says, but don't be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs. And that's what's starting to happen with a lot of these athletes now. They're not going with the status quo. They're not putting up. They're not just shedding up and dribbling anymore.
Right.
They have a platform. They're taking advantage of their platform. They have a voice. They're taking advantage of their voice. And what you're seeing is usually when there's turmoil politically, racially, sports usually is the antidote or the Band-Aid. Right. Not the antidote, the Band-Aid.
It's one of the things that we can come together over and not have conflict. If we put a city before the name of a sports team, a school before the name of a sports team, then that's something that we all can universally cheer for because it transcends race. You're not talking about the players, you're talking about the school and the city. So sports always has a healing effect when there's turmoil in society.
But here's what happened. Sports wasn't there to heal it. It wasn't there to pacify it.
The pandemic.
It wasn't there to pacify it, none of that.
Yeah.
So now you have a situation where people are having to look in the mirror of what's going on and having to deal with it.
Yes. And another part of that is because of the pandemic and because of what's going on with Corona-19, people are dealing with their own adversities. Yeah. So now they have something in common with the person who's dealing with adversity in their everyday life. Right. They're going to be in survival mode after the pandemic. But a huge part of society has never experienced that, or if they have, it's been on short-term basis. Loss of a job, maybe a child got sick or a parent. But a lot of society deal with this over and over all the time, every day when they wake up. And now all of us are dealing with it because of the pandemic.
There are some people who thrive in the area of survival.
Yes.
They just thrive because I've lived that my whole life, so I know how to do that.
Right.
But looking at sports and this whole thing, well, now you're starting to see people are coming together of all races because it's that same team that you're cheering for that now have people that saying that's wrong.
Yes, yes.
So I'm still cheering for my favorite team or my favorite player, and whatever squad he on, I'm on that squad
right,
too.
I'm a supporter.
Right.
Yes.
And so they're taking their platform and they're making it valued. They're making it make a difference in society because, you know, I'm watching how these athletes, these sports figures, the media and the fans, and even Christians are putting pressure on owners, lawmakers, law enforcers to change their perspective on the subject of race.
Even deeper than that, Pastor, they're putting pressure on universities and states to take down different statues, to change the flag. In Mississippi, it's a lot of pressure now to change the flag. Some of the buildings on these campuses that were named after former slave owners or bigots or historically racist people have been changed and taken down. They even talking about the Edmund Pettus Bridge its name being changed because of his history of racism and oppression of people of color. So it's not just that; it's going into the institutions like state, universities, etc.
And what it is you're finding what gave it so much momentum is you gave millennials time to rally and think about something.
Yes. Nobody's at work.
Right. And
everybody's home.
And I got energy and I got time and I can march. I can let my voice be heard. I can display my displeasure and get away with it. And it's a movement that is causing, like you said, laws to be changed.
Oh yeah.
Like even here in the state of Wisconsin, they're now lobbying that Lincoln's statue be taken down.
Oh yeah.
Up at Madison University. So, you know, a lot of stuff is happening. You know, I'm even looking at sports as far as even NASCAR.
Oh yeah. But let me say this about, you talked about the millennials and the time that they had to focus. Once again, what you spoke of in the beginning of the show, you don't have sports as a distraction.
Right.
You don't have sports to take our mind off of the real life issues that's going on, and you don't have sports to be that conduit that we all can rally around together and not think about and deal with the most serious things that's going on with, like, in society, like racial injustice and discrimination.
Yeah. And we don't know how powerful sports was or is until it was taken away from us. And in a time where there's been so much that we're dealing with, sports used to be our pacifier, our getaway, our number, whatever you want to call it. I cannot think about issues and just enjoy the entertainment. And now that entertainment is gone, I have nothing but the issues to think about. And the worst thing you can do is to leave somebody with their thoughts.
Oh yeah, my son was telling me, and actually, my buddy out of L.A. is getting ready to talk about this on his show on KJLH in Los Angeles this weekend. My son was saying there should be a movement that states that anyone who owns slaves should not be allowed to be on United States currency. Now, I asked him, give me a little more of that, Matthew. He said, well, Dad, I'm not saying it shouldn't be white men on money. It just shouldn't be white men that own slaves. He said, and I think that they should put Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on a $20 bill, not just because he was such a great civil rights leader and historically important person in America, because he was that in the world, because he was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. That would be something that would be very, very transformative as you talk about race relations and equity, and white people actually owning up to the things that they have done in the past and saying, hey, we admit to it and we want to start the healing process.
Yeah. I think, well, that's where the healing process starts first is I admit it.
I admit it, yeah.
But most of them don't admit it because, again, I didn't do anything to humans. I did something to it and them.
Yes, yes, yes.
To it and them.
Yes.
And again, this isn't a race-related show. It's not.
No. Nor are we politically biased one way or the
One way or the other. No. We are just stating the facts. I mean, let's just look at NASCAR again. NASCAR, which is a predominantly white sport.
Historically, predominantly.
Yep. Was called on the carpet about two things. One, the Confederate flag.
Yes.
So they removed it and it's not allowed at any NASCAR event anymore.
Right, any of their property.
But what's crazy is people were upset about it because the people who are upset aren't people who are affected by it.
Right.
They look at it as just, hey, that just represents the South. But for African Americans, that don't represent the South that's pleasing to us.
Or for Americans, period, because it
was a war.
It was a war. It stems from the Civil War.
Right. And you lost, so you don't get your flag anymore.
Right, right, right.
You don't get to keep your flag, you lost.
And one of the things that's interesting about the NASCAR thing is that they were able to keep that going on because a few, not all the NASCAR people, a few of the NASCAR people wanted to keep that going on, but a lot of them really just didn't pay attention to it. It didn't bother them one way or the other just because of what you said. It didn't affect them.
Right.
Now, when they finding out how it affects other people, those people in NASCAR who don't believe in that are standing with the general public, and those people who do believe in that are finding that they are a minority.
Right.
And they're getting trapped in a corner.
Right. And that's the thing. Awareness and conversation can change everything.
Yes. Yes.
And you just have to have the Bible talks about in Ephesians, opening up the eyes of your understanding so you can really see what's going on. And here, I believe God is just taking the veil off a lot of people's eyes, the blinders off a lot of eyes to say, this is what it is, and we got to deal with it.
Well, one of the things that made it convenient for the white population in general was segregation.
Right.
They didn't see and don't understand the things that's going on in the black community because it's away from them.
Right.
They don't have to deal with it. Some of the other things, and my son, I don't know why my son has been talking to a lot about this. He's 18, so this is right in his wheelhouse.
Right.
But he was talking about how a lot of the Indians and the reservations live in third world conditions. And even us as black people, because we don't see it, because it's away from us, we don't really understand or have any sympathy towards it or want to do anything to help. So all this stuff that's going on about black people that a lot of white people weren't aware of, now they're becoming aware of it, and they feel like they have an obligation and a responsibility to do the humane thing and do the thing that civil rights meant to do in the beginning, which is move the pendulum more towards equality than keeping it segregated and sectioned off like it is right now.
And let me say this, as a black man and a pastor, I'm not looking for you to be colorblind. That's not what we're looking for. I'm not looking for you to not recognize the fact that I'm a different color than you. What I'm looking for you to recognize is that my color matters. I'm not looking for you to be colorblind.
Right.
Because now you're saying, now I don't even see you.
Right, right.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is recognize that we're a color too, we're a race too, we're human beings too, and give us the same rights.
Yes.
Now, I love the old prophet James Brown when he used to say, listen, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door, I'll get it myself.
Yes.
And I believe that's where we want to be. Just open up the door, we'll get it ourselves.
Yeah, make the playing field level.
That's it. That's it.
Everybody starts at the same spot, and whatever you get on your merit and your hard work and your sweat equity and your intellectual capital, that's where you end up. You can't put barriers in place that makes it beneficial to one group of people and detrimental to another group of people. And that's how it's been in the United States since its inception. And it's time for that to come to a halt so we can be the great country, the great world leaders that we can be, because we're losing so many. You look at like LeBron James and some of the other athletes who are out there outspoken out front, they're not the most intelligent people from our race. They just happen to be high profile and play basketball and get a chance to get the microphone. There are a lot of people who don't play basketball that are not preachers, that are very intellectually intelligent. They leadership skills. They've thought out. They're researched, and they could bring a lot to the table. But because they're not famous athletes or famous pastors or famous elected officials, they don't get a chance at the microphone. And that's a travesty to the United States that we don't use our best and brightest when we can.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I've been to Israel several times, and Israel. They teach differently than we do in America. Americans, they teach us what to think. Israel teaches their people how to think. That's a total different, because now I'm giving you what you should think, how you should think, the way you should think.
Right.
But if I teach you how to think, you'll succeed me.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so far ahead of most countries in technology, in health. They're so far ahead because they know how to think versus thinking in the norm of everybody else. And that's really the place that, you know, I believe the world needs to get to. Again, number 2 thing in NASCAR. The noose being put in the only African-American driver's garage. Bubba Wallace. They had an investigation, and they could not find out who did it. All the cameras in the world around NASCAR and his garage. So you know there's cameras around your cars. I think, allegedly. I don't know. You got you know, $300,000, $400,000 cars, and there's no cameras to watch them?
Don't make sense to me.
That people could just go in and out of your garage?
Don't make sense to me.
I got nothing. But they showed a picture of the rope to which to pull down the garage door. Somebody tied it in a noose.
Okay.
Now, mind you, they say that that's been done a bunch of times. But it wasn't there when he moved into the garage.
Okay.
It was there after he parked his car. And it conspicuously happened after they banned the Confederate flags.
What a coincidence.
This could be a conspiracy. This could be a happenstance.
I think it was a coincidence. That's my vote.
I'll just go with it's an incident. But I love the fact that what it did is it caused NASCAR to unite.
Yeah, to rally around Bubba Wallace.
Right.
Yes.
So much so that they pushed his car to the starting line.
Yeah, to the front.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now, for those who didn't like the flag anyway, now you really give me a reason to go, yeah, now I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah. When we talk about a lot of this stuff that's dealing with inequities and race and discrimination and prejudice and oppression and all of that, I come back to one of the things that my godfather told me a long time ago. I might have been 12, 13 years old. He said the biggest...
What's that, about 100 years old? 100 years ago?
I'm only a little bit older than you, little brother. But anyway, what he told me, he said the greatest problem in the world is and always will be ignorance.
No doubt.
And a lot of this stems from ignorance.
Right.
A lot of this stems from people not knowing, not understanding, not appreciating, because it gives them some type of an advantage. Mm-hmm. And if it gives you an advantage, it's easier to look the other way.
Right, right. I also think it's taught.
Oh, definitely.
And it's taught in such a way that when that's all you know from a kid, it don't seem wrong.
Yeah, it's subliminal.
Right.
Yes.
What's wrong with my Confederate flag? My great granddaddy flew one. Mm-hmm. My granddaddy flew one. My daddy flew one. I'm a fly one.
Yeah.
We're Confederate flag flyers. And now you're telling me I can't?
Yeah.
I don't have the right to?
Yeah.
You do have the right to on your property.
Right.
Just like your grandfather might have smoked, your great-grandfather might have smoked, your daddy might have smoked. but now you can't smoke everywhere you want to.
Yes. Good example.
You know,
Good
you
example.
can't. And if you do, it's breaking law, and you can't get a ticket for it.
Right. Right.
And some place you might get folded up for it.
Yes.
You know, but here's what you have to realize. The world is changing. And whether we like it or not, COVID was the start of the change.
Yes.
COVID made everybody change. And what COVID did is it made everybody look in the mirror, reevaluate where they are, start to say, where am I going from here? Because what I thought was normal is not going to be the normal anymore. I got to recreate a new norm. And if I'm going to recreate a new norm, then the stuff that was not good in the past, I don't want to keep it. And I believe it was, and I'm not blaming this on God, I believe it was God that, that what happened to, I can't think of his name right now, the guy in Minnesota.
I forgot his name, so too. Oh, yeah.
Please forgive me, y'all. But what happened to him, I believe.
Floyd.
Floyd, right.
Floyd.
George Floyd.
George Floyd. Yes.
What happened to George Floyd, I believe, was God saying, okay, I'm going to use this evil and turn it out for good.
Yes.
Because now I can rally blacks, whites, Latinos, Asians, Jews,
Indians,
yes, Native Americans. I can unite the world on this because this has caused a worldwide protest.
Worldwide, and I don't know how much time we got. We need to check the time, but I want to say another thing when we talk about God's influence on it, the timing of it with COVID,
right?
And COVID being a worldwide phenomenon,
right?
Okay, that, and then George Floyd, what happened with him and him being that close to an NBA player,
right?
He was that close to Steven Jackson,
right? So
Steven Jackson got involved. That made Steven Jackson's brothers from the NBA also get involved.
Right.
And all of those are things that I feel was put together and was spiritually put in place in order to make this thing happen the way it's happening.
Again, I'm not comparing him to Jesus, but the Bible says unless a seed dies and goes into the ground, there will not be a harvest. And this man and his daughter got it. His daughter said, my dad changed the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad changed the world. A man's death changed the world.
Yes.
And so we have to look at this beyond skin, beyond outwards appearance, and start going, okay, what is the heart of that man? What is the heart of that woman? What is the mind of that man? What is the mind of that woman? And begin to deal with each other. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's been prejudice on both sides. You know, there's been black people who've been prejudiced against white. Yeah. It's been on both sides.
Haves and have-nots have issues with each other.
Right. You know? And even amongst black relations, the light skin and the dark skin have had issues. Yeah. You know, and so this is something that we all got to change our mind about. All of us got to think differently about this and start to think, especially as us Christians, we got to start thinking more than me, my four, and no more. We got to start thinking globally.
Yes.
We got to start thinking neighborhood-wise, city-wise, statewide, national-wide, and even, you know, like I said, globally. We have to start thinking on a bigger scale.
Well, when you look at a lot of the problems that we have with some of the oppression that goes on in the world, we're talking world now, a lot of it is about the control of resources.
It's always about that.
It's about the control of resources. If it wasn't oil in the Middle East, we wouldn't be in the Middle East doing anything.
Right.
We wouldn't be in Africa doing things if it wasn't diamonds in Africa.
Right.
So the control of resources has been the
we wouldn't be in Mexico doing anything if we didn't have workers.
They wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have been.
Forgive me. Just kidding.
Okay, I'm gonna forgive you, but just me.
Right.
Hey, but they wouldn't have been in Africa.
Right.
Getting
if it wasn't for resources
and the building and all that. So that's what it's always been about. So a lot of the corruption and a lot of the differences that we have with each other is because of the control of resources, which means it's about a person being in power.
Right.
Resources should be looked at as a sharing of resources.
Right.
How do we share resources? How do we share what Mother Earth has given us?
Right.
Be it the air. How do we share the air, the quality of it,
Right.
the water? How do we make sure that the quality is in place where we all as human beings
Right.
can share
Right.
the resources? And the problem comes in is that the person with the biggest gun normally comes in and tries to control the resources. That's why they took the land from the Indians,
Right.
because it was valuable land.
Right.
All of these things, that's why they took the land from Mexico.
Right. It was
You know,
valuable.
it was valuable land.
Yeah.
So all of these things, being able to control resources instead of share resources, to me, I think is a mind shift that needs to take place. And I think if things like that happen, we'll start to see us get along as people
Right.
better and better as we move forward.
And for me, it breaks one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet. And that's really what it is. I'm seeing what you have and I'm going, I want that.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
So now I'm coveting it.
Yeah.
And now you got into a place of covetous, and that's a sin. And when you do things in sin, it's evil, and it's never going to turn out right. It's never going to turn out right. And so, and when you continually do it, you continually get worse and worse. The situation gets worse. You get worse, and you get to a place where it's no longer about the humans you're taking it from, right? Because they're not human. It's about what I want, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you are.
Yeah, some of this stuff is just in abundance. Like, I have more than what I need. I want the amount that I want so I can be perceived by other people as having a certain status.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's just God help me. And I thank God for, again, Romans 12:2, which says again, and be not conformed to this world. Don't act like this world. As Christians, don't act like this world.
Yes.
Don't hate your brother. Don't covet his stuff. Love one another. But he said, don't do this any longer with its superficial values and customs. That stuff that you're going after is superficial. Ain't no real value in it. But he says, but be transformed, progressively changed. How am I doing it? As you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind. What does that mean? I got to change the way I think, so
Yes.
I change the way I act.
Yes.
And so I change how I treat people.
How I look at people and how I look at situations.
It's so important. Change the way you think, you'll change the way you act, and you'll change how you treat others. And the biggest issue for a lot of people, they think their mindset is right and others is wrong. When you stop valuing people, you have gone into a superficial
Yes, amen, Pastor.
customs and values of people. And God is saying, you gotta get that out of your head.
Yes.
You got to stop thinking like that. Well, listen, another great show. Thank you for being a part. Tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel right here, Joy 1340 AM, 98.7 FM, or go check us out if you want to see our faces on Facebook or YouTube channel, Into His Courts. Until next week, have an amazing week. Peace.